Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode on Laid Back the Rosinka podcast. Our topic for this week is relevance of mythology in today's culture. Our guests for today are Dr. Ifeanyi and Ijeoma and his wife Ijeoma, who have great love for philosophy and Nigerian and Greek mythology. Hello, guys. Welcome to the show. How are you?
We're fine. Hi.
First of all, congratulations on the marriage, and because we haven't seen each other in a long while. How's married life treating you guys?
This thing will turn 3 years by this year.
I know, but we haven't seen each other for, I think since TPO days, to be fair. I don't think, because I haven't been in Enugu since then.
Okay, no wahala. Thank you for the congratulations.
Yeah, but for context, people who don't know about our history, I've known these guys, especially Ifeanyi, since JS1, since we were 10 years old or so. So we go a long way back. But anyway, let's get right into it. Why are you guys so passionate about mythology, and why did you pick up this passion? How did you pick up this passion?
Okay, babe, you want to go first?
Okay. Okay, so basically, I've always been interested in stories and like the people that shape them, like cultural stories. I've always been interested in different countries and how they think, how they reason, and how that reasoning feeds into their like folklore and mythology. So just from learning about people's background and stories and their mythology, you can learn a lot about them and how they think. What was that thing that what's his name, Tyrion Lannister said in Game of Thrones? He was like, what unites people? Armies, gold, flags? Nah, it's stories. There's nothing in the world more powerful than a good story. Nothing can stop it. No enemy can defeat it. That's what he said, and it's true.
Wow.
So if you know somebody's backstory, you know a lot more about the person.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm guessing you guys are great fans of Game of Thrones then.
Yes.
But is there any link between Game of Thrones? I know we're debating a little bit, but is there any link between Game of Thrones and mythology and philosophy? Any link there?
Well, so obviously, Game of Thrones has a lot about dragons. Dragons are a staple in different mythologies, including English, Chinese, etc. But the real link between Game of Thrones and mythology is that the backstory of Game of Thrones itself is from English history. Like some of the kings, I can't remember which one in particular, but the story follows the storyline of most of the kings of Britain, like like from the 1700s and upwards. So a lot of their backstory, a lot of the things that they did are even the ones that people have not established as facts, like the ones which can actually be classified as legends and myths, also feed into the Game of Thrones storyline. So you can see where it feeds into it and everything. Some of it also comes through.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. But now to Ifeanyi, but why gods in particular? Why Igbo and why should we know about these gods, the Igbo and the Greek gods?
Okay. Here's the thing. I've always been interested in how people think. Okay.
Yes.
I like knowing what goes on behind the mind of someone before they take a decision, perform an action, that kind of thing. Yeah. And if you remember, that time when we were in JS3, I stumbled across one astrology book. That was what sparked my interest, okay? So I was just sitting down here and I had this book that was 600 and something pages. So it was from Ekene Dilichukwu, I borrowed it from. I sat down and read the whole book. Yeah. Read the whole thing from front to back on a weekend. And I just sat down and I was like, I have special powers now. So I'll go around and ask people, what's your star sign? You talk. I'll talk, blah, 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 blah. Like, oh my God, it's true. That kind of thing. So from there, I came across mythology, but I wasn't really interested until I met this woman. And then she started talking about
this woman,
this is this Greek god that did this. Yeah. These are the Igbo gods that did this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Until I started seeing the same pattern that I saw in astrology books while I was reading that. You see that a particular god is talkative, another one is not talkative. A particular god is always aggressive, another one is cunning. So that's what sparked my interest. But one thing I noticed was that there was no Igbo god that resembled Hermes in Greek mythology.
Yeah.
So I decided to create that one as a joke. And I
So,
kind of like him.
which one did you finally create?
I called him Njakiri. Iman Njakiri. So I just called him Njakiri.
So
So he's
Njakiri is the
like,
god of what now?
he's a god of tricks. He's a
And
god
laughter.
of jokes
And sarcasm.
and laughter. So he doesn't really take anything seriously, but
Fair.
he never dies. He can't die. He's a god. So he's decided life is a joke. So he's just going to have fun and see what's up.
To be honest, I think I like that actually. Njakiri, the god of laughter, fun. I think I like.
Yeah,
This
I haven't
Igbo
worked
and-
out his powers properly, so he's too powerful. But I'll figure out what to do with him for weaknesses.
Please do.
Maybe his weakness is coffee
I
or
feel
something like that.
I actually like that you because that's innovative and creative in my own opinion. I like the fact that you created a Nigerian god that will be known for laughter and all. And just imagine we create our own DC movie or Spider-Man movie on that. That would be interesting, to be honest.
That would be something. That would be something.
I think we can create a character like that and write a script on that. I really think so. But
I think people are already doing that, Sha.
Oh really? That's interesting.
Oh yeah,
really,
yeah.
Really, really interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of how do I put it? There's a lot of comic book companies. It started as comic book companies, but now they are now having deals with people like Marvel, Disney, and so on. If you check out Comic Republic, if you check out Kugali just signed a deal with Disney some like last year or so.
Comic Republic and Kugali.
Kugali, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also there was this other one who just they have like an entire set of superheroes, some of them informed by Nigerian gods, and which is I forget their name, but I will definitely send them over to you. But yeah, Comic Republic is one, Kugali is another. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, that's really interesting. But how relevant do you really think this is? Like, why should the average person care about this thing?
Great question, because I see a lot of people have decided that all these things are just things of the past and they don't matter now that we have TV and the internet and things like that. We don't matter. Do people even tell their children bedtime stories anymore? I don't know.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
In this
But that's the thing. Yeah. But that's the thing. Even I don't know whether I don't think it might be just an Igbo thing. It might be like a general Nigerian / African thing to just basically ditch whatever is not working, you think is not working, and then just be completely ahistorical. For example, now look at what some a woman, a historian, a white historian said about Nigeria in 1937. About Igbo people in general in 1937.
Yeah.
The old men sit in the meeting house telling old tales, squabbling and contradicting. The young men are content to have no past as long as they can have a future. So people don't care anymore. They're just like, we'll get what so you get. But it's not.
But I'm sorry I got you, but you have a really good point, because I remember back in around 2001, I was in the same class with Ifeanyi at the time, and my grandfather died. He was living in our house at the time, and I know he used to just sit us together as the grandchildren, and just tell us stories. To be honest, at a point, children at a point, if you feel like, this is now getting more. But whatever, I know, thinking back now, reflecting, I realized there are a lot of things he told me that made a lot of sense. Like now that I'm thinking about it, it made a lot of sense. You understand? The way, for example, let me give you one example. So he was a traditionalist, so he wasn't a Christian. So one day, a pastor came to pray for him. That he's getting old. I said that when he dies, he will go to heaven. Blah blah blah. He now asked the pastor, if God, let me say it in English. He says it in Igbo, but he said, if God forgives me my sins, who is he going to give you to? And that's a very good question. Like when you think about it, he said he believes in traditional way of life. He believes that if he has wronged a lot of people, if he's evil, then it will be on him and his family. But if God forgives him that he's been evil all his life, who is he going to pass it to? And that's a very good question. I don't think a lot of people have thought about that. So you have a very good point. I think even older people should tell more tales. I think you're right about that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Don't worry. Sorry, go ahead.
I also had that experience too. Growing up, my grandma, she's still alive. She used to tell us bedtime stories. Would ask her tell us a story. Even my mom, with her busy life as a resident, on some nights she will sit down and tell us a story.
Yeah.
And I somehow managed to store those stories in my head. So I haven't forgotten all of them, like the tortoise stories and all of that. And we just sit down there enraptured, like, oh my God, story time. You get?
Yeah.
In this period, I don't know, but I would do the same too. I would, embellish my own stories, but I'll tell stories too.
Yeah, you should. We should, because now, whether you maybe as kids, maybe you're growing up, you have a lot of things cropping up in your mind, in your life, maybe. But as you grow older, when you reflect on it, those were fond memories. Honestly, you actually, that's one of the fond memories I have of my grandfather. If I'm being honest, that's one of my fond memories. Him sitting us down to tell us stories about his life, what he passed through during the Civil War, and all those stuff. So, because as Ijeoma mentioned, telling old tales important, because if you look at the stories of the Civil War, is all over the place. And the reason is that some people like stories people tell stories from their own perspective. But for example, because there are three tribes in Nigeria, each tribe will tell you their own version of the Civil War based on their own perspective. You see what I mean? But it's good for old people to tell those tales to their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, so they will also know their own part and how it actually affected them as a family and as a community as well.
True. I agree.
I think that's right. But let's go back to the gods thing. Do you guys have any favorite gods? And if you do so, why?
Okay.
Babe, you go first. Because when you told me, I was just tired.
Okay, you want me to go first?
Yes.
Okay. So, my favorite god in the Greek mythology is Hermes. Okay. In the Roman mythology, he's called Mercury. Okay.
Okay.
So, my wife pointed out to me he's a bit problematic. So he's the god of commerce. So the other parts of his personality that spoke to me is that he's a god of persuasion, negotiations, all right? And he's a god of communication. So I like that idea that the man can come and convince you to do things and that he's a trickster. I like people who don't take life too seriously. I want you to play sometimes. I want you to know you have a goal to do something, but then you should be able to play once in a while. So the part that he tricked Zeus when he was born and stole his cattle from his cradle. The problem with Greek mythology is their stories don't make sense, but they are just fantastic. So those are the reasons why I liked him. And then he sort of escorted souls that died on earth into the underworld. So putting his leg in two places. So a man that can be good and a man that can be bad. So he's like the most human out of all the gods on Mount Olympus. And that's why I like him. For the Nigerian gods, the only one I like is Njakiri, the one I created.
Because you created that
one. I'm biased there. Yeah.
Fair. I don't blame you. The thing you mentioned about Hermes being the god of commerce, persuasion, negotiation. The moment you say that, I wasn't surprised because, like, if you remember, you were the person that introduced me to a particular business book. I'm trying to remember the name now, but I can't remember. You made me read that book, something about millionaires. I can't remember what it's called again.
Is it The Education of Billionaires?
I think that's the book, but I know it's about business, money, commerce, so I'm not surprised at all.
Oh, okay. So you don't take since I do this thing.
So I'm not surprised. So what about you, Ijeoma? What are your favorite gods?
Okay. Yeah. First of all, I just remember one point. Before I get into that, I just remember one point that Ifeanyi just said that there's no equivalent to Hermes. But from what you're describing, this sounds almost exactly like Ekwensu, actually. Actually, yes, that is the thing. Most people think Ekwensu is the devil, and that's just the colonial, what's it called, era.
Yeah.
So they needed somebody to blame for all the evil in the world and everything. So they just picked the most, the baddest looking out of them, and they said, okay, that's the one, that's the devil. But he's not. He's basically like the god of negotiations, at least, especially in wartime. He's a trickster, etc.
Yeah.
Also maybe a little bit of a hint of chaos here and
Yeah.
there. So Ekwesu can be likened to Hermes in a way.
Okay, so Ekwensu is your own favorite god then?
Oh no, he's not.
so what's your own favorite?
If we're talking Greek mythology, my favorite is Persephone. Yeah, Persephone is called Proserpine. She's the goddess of spring. But that sounds very. But when you hear it like that, she sounds very nice and soft and gentle. Yeah. But no, she's absolutely not. That's the thing. Her own story starts very weird and somehow. She's kidnapped by Hades and taken to the underworld, etc. So it removes a lot of her agency. But the thing is, from some of the stories and everything, she decided to stay in the underworld and become its queen. And she's like a force to be reckoned with. In fact, most people said that they're afraid of Hades and everything, but they don't, and they don't say his name. But it's Persephone you need to be afraid of if you're going to the underworld.
Yeah,
that kind of. Yeah, so that dual nature is what I like about her. The fact that she can be the goddess of spring, because she spends 6 months with her husband and then 6 months above the surface. So she comes back to fulfill her duties as the goddess of spring. And then after the 6 months are up, she goes back to the underworld to be the goddess of the underworld as well. The keeper of Tartarus, like she's the one with the keys to Tartarus, which is where they keep the original Titans.
Okay.
That's where the original Titans are imprisoned.
Okay.
Yeah, so I like that dual nature of somebody being all nice and sweet and everything, and then being a total badass on the side.
Yeah, no, that balance is actually very important. Yeah,
very important.
Is there any Nigerian god that's similar to Persephone?
With the dual nature thing?
Yeah.
Let's see. Not that I have seen, but I'm definitely into that kind of research. The only person that the one that I like that has that kind of power, that level of power, is Allah. Most people don't know this. Okay, like that's the Igbo goddess of the earth. Like, so basically she's the goddess of the underworld as well, because when souls die in Igbo cosmology and everything, that is where they go. They commit you to the earth. They give you back to her. So she's the keeper of souls. Like, well, not souls in particular, but at least the bodies and everything. She's the one that preserves them after they're gone.
Okay.
So yes, she's actually. Most people think when you say most powerful God, you say Chukwu. Oh, yes, Chukwu. That the thing is that God, the God himself is like very. He rules through these other ones. These the Abar. That's what we call the other gods, the ones like Amadioha, what's his name, Abu, and so on.
Yeah.
He rules through them. He himself is kind of removed from all our affairs. Allah is after him, Allah is the most powerful.
Allah is the god of what?
The earth. Like, she's the goddess of the earth, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
she's the earth, like she's the Igbo earth goddess. Yeah.
So now you in Nigerian gods, you've mentioned Chukwu, Amadioha, Allah, Agu, Ekwensu. If I mentioned the Ekwensu, I think no, you mentioned the Ekwensu, Abara. Yeah. Is there any other one? Any other Nigerian god that we're missing here? Apart from Nchake.
Well, that's the thing. Well, Nigerian in terms of these are Igbo gods, because Nigeria is like 250 plus tribes, so we can't say that these are. But no, so in the south,
I know. So we have been a little bit biased.
Okay. No, in the southwest you have Shango, you have what's her name, Oya, and Ogun, and you have Oshu. All of those ones, you have them. So you have they have equivalents here too. Like if Amadioha he's mostly known as the god of thunder, but he's also a god of justice. Yeah. So his sort of equivalent is Shango, who is also a thunder god. So there's that. Who else again? There are also gods in the north. They are good. Like before Islam came in and sort of wiped out a lot of that history. There are also gods, northern gods. They also
this is really, really interesting, honestly. Since we have a lot of Hollywood movies about Zeus, and I mean, think there should be movies about this Nigerian gods, you know.
Yes, exactly, and that's the kind of thing we're trying to move towards.
Yeah, that would be interesting because, like you mentioned, there are 250 tribes in Nigeria, and I'm sure we can get over 500, 1,000 Nigerian gods. Like, at least if we search, I don't know all of them.
If you search, you will find
exactly.
Plenty.
So imagine if we create like a series,
an entire series.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, it would be really mad fun.
Yeah, it would be interesting as long as we find a way to incorporate other people to, watch it.
Yes.
In a way.
Like you mean at the global stage?
Yes.
Definitely, but everything is all about presentation and marketing. After all, the Greek mythology was marketed to us, and we all got into it and liked it. So it's all about the way the story is told, and I prefer the stories to be told by us because it is our culture, and I like the way you guys are going into it. So if the story is told in such a way that is interesting to the global audience, I don't see how and why they shouldn't get into it. It may take a while, but they'll come around.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Which brings me back to that your point about how it would be, how they are useful today. That's the thing. Like you want somebody on the street to be like, okay, well, yeah, this is all great and everything, but what does it have to do with me, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, mythology is pretty much all around us. Like it's like Greek mythology, for example, has shaped US society for years, like till now. Like the idea of democracy, everything about it and all that, everything came from like Greek mythology. And like you said, the marketing helped it. So apart from the usual ways of using myths and folktales to preserve culture, bedtime stories, entertainment, ceremony, apart from those ones of preserving history and culture, there are also uses of it in like marketing, like brand storytelling. People use mythological characters to sort of create user personas and marketing personas for their clients, and it works. Like in brand storytelling, you use heroes, you use villain, you use situations. All of those things came out of storytelling and myths and folklore. Yeah. You also use it a lot you also use archetypes, a lot of mythological archetypes in behavioral psychology. Like this one is very important because of that story that you mentioned earlier, Arinze, about your grandpa saying, okay, but if God forgives my sins, who is going to pass it to? Who is he going to pass it to? The person he was telling that thing may have laughed, but he's actually asking a serious question based on his foundational understanding from what they've been telling him, like knowledge and everything. This is where his psychology is coming from. These are the myths he's been told. These are the stories he's understood. This is the foundation of his philosophy. And you need to understand that if you want to help him. Do you get? Especially if you're a psychologist or a psychiatrist, you really need to understand that before you can help him.
Yeah. That's really, because back then when he said it, all of us in the family, we all laughed. But to me, now that I've grown older, I think that's one of the wisest things I've ever heard, because initially we had never thought about it that way, and it made me think, that's the point. Okay, if God takes away your sins, what does he do with it? Is there going to be
actions that should have consequences, right?
Exactly.
That's the philosophy there. Yeah. That's the thing. It's also very useful in like philosophy and like this deep type of things. Like a lot of these stories form the basis of many people's philosophy and politics. Very important. Peter Obi himself, was it not philosophy he studied?
Yeah.
And look at him now.
Yeah, that's really really interesting.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Those are the foundations of philosophy. The storytelling and the archetypes are the things that also stem from like these are the things that also shape political values as well. Yeah. And that's the thing about Igbo people. Like we keep on saying, oh, why aren't we more together in terms of why can't we get our shit together in terms of politics and everything? Yeah. You don't have a defining philosophy. That's the problem.
True.
You have all these different philosophies that you have not somehow conglomerated into something that can unite people. And that's the thing about storytelling. If you tell yourself a particular story over and over again, like the Jewish people did, their own mythology is the Bible, by the way. Yeah. If you tell yourself that story over and over again, over generations, and keep imbibing it and keep making it a philosophy, that is what gives you cohesiveness. That is what gives you power. That's the thing. People don't know that.
Ijeoma, you hit the... See, there's something my dad told me. One time I asked my dad, why is it that we can't have two-party system the way they have in America? I don't get it. Why do we keep changing the... Do you know what he told me? There's no philosophy, there's no political philosophy there. And you are right. He said there's no political philosophy that it's all about if this person says, okay, it's not favoring me in PDP, he'll move to APC. It's not favoring me in APC. That most of the politicians and politicians, they don't have any philosophy. And that's the truth. I mean, what he just said is the truth.
And even if they do have a philosophy, it's mostly the same philosophy that perhaps Idi Amin and what's his name? Hitler had. Which is basically, I'm in charge and that's it.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's also the reason why there's no philosophy whatsoever in Nigerian discourse and everything is, philosophy comes after you're well fed. It doesn't come when you're hungry. You get
as well. Yeah.
Like one particular man who I admire, Nassim Taleb, he's to be a philosopher king. First, you have to be a king. Do you understand? You need to have fed yourself so that when you're reading their difficult English translations of different philosophical texts, you can sit down to deconstruct it and understand what they are telling you. If you're doing that, your stomach is rumbling. You're not going to make sense of anything at all.
Yeah.
And
but
you're in a society where they are more like stupid people in charge, like they are the ones leading the whole society, it's very hard for any intelligence to come up because they will push it. True. And philosophy forces you to look at yourself and ask yourself some very difficult questions. Most people who despise philosophy do not like asking themselves those questions. They like to hide from themselves. Yeah. So that's why the Nigerian society is like that. But still, we need to still find a way to push philosophy so that it can get to people, even if it's bite-sized. Maybe we take the very difficult texts and turn them into catchphrases. So
but that's the thing. That's where folklore comes in. That's where I was going to disagree with you, because I'm just like, okay, there's a particular demography. Everybody knows who they are. I'm not going to mention their name here, just in case. Everybody knows that these are the people who are terrorizing, especially now the Southeast, for example. And they are doing it with their stomachs rumbling, in quotes. These are people who are used to living hard lives, and their own philosophy, they do have a philosophy. It's just not as that. It just doesn't look like what you think as philosophy, like men reading in ivory towers and things like that. No, these are just stories they've told themselves over time about their superiority to other people, and how they are going to enforce that superiority by crushing utterly any resistance to anybody else, to their aim. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So those people, they are exactly what you said about them being hungry and everything and all that, and yet they move as one to a large extent. Even their brethren who are higher up and everything in Nigerian politics, they all move as one and they help each other and everything. So at both levels, both the high level and the low level, they are moving as one unit, and their aim is clear, and their aim is destruction of everybody else. Everybody knows who I'm talking about. And they have a philosophy. That philosophy is being expressed in their folk tales. And that's the thing that you said, you need a bite-sized way of telling people. That's where folklore comes in. You don't have to be all like ivory tower and everything. Just simple tale, just the akukifu.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Interesting. But because of time, because we are we need to start, we round off now. But if you had a chance, I know Ifeanyi has come up with Njakere. So now, as a couple, not only Ifeanyi, if you have the chance to procreate a god in human form, who would you guys produce?
That's a good one. I would ideally. Yeah, you go ahead.
Funny thing, there was one, I know she already existed. Ohamiri, babe, how did you describe her again? You said she's a god, or she's a god?
She's a goddess of the particular. She's actually the same. I think she's the same goddess of Uguta Lake, to be honest.
What's the name?
Yeah, no, she has different names. Yeah, some people call her Uwide, depending on whether you're talking about her and her husband, and other people call her Ohamiri on their own. So basically, she's in charge of that Oguta Lake. According to some people, she's been the one drowning people that come, and but if they come there without her permission, for you. So yeah, yeah, she's
is that who you guys have chosen to create in human form?
Somebody that troublesome. I don't know. If I wanted to create somebody, I would like
created her. In the partial this thing I did, she was supposed to be the on and off girlfriend of Jackie.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that kind of
please,
so,
let's somebody that we can actually
light-hearted and not sending anything because he can't die. And then she is being all annoyed that this man is not taking her seriously, even though she has feelings for him. But that was just like a minor play on things. So that's the one I brought to life, but I don't know who she wants to bring to life.
If I were going to bring someone to life, do you mean like if I wanted to create one of my own right now, or do you mean like one that already existed in our folklore?
No. Like a new one entirely. Like I said, you guys.
A new one entirely.
Create a god in human form. From Ifeanyi. Okay. So I don't want you guys to go with it.
Okay.
I want a
one. This one. What I would create would be a subset of. It would be a god that would sort of enforce a particular goddess's will. Again, there's somebody that, let's say, a god of lies, for example, that can detect lies.
Yeah.
There's already, what's his name? Already sort of has that function, but I want someone who will go even deeper, especially if you hold a staff of office. If you hold any offer at all, any kind of offer, whether democratic or autocratic, that person is automatically your master. That would be that god. So if you like, if you do anything that, if you have your book of if you have your rules and things that you're supposed to do, any single time you step out of line, all right, that god will take one of your children, and child could be anything. That's the thing. It could be if you're the kind of person that doesn't have children, your children, what you love most could be your money, and you take that away from you, something like that. So as you take away from other people, and so that god will take from you. That would be what I would do. So any god that god is basically the god of like offices and all that, like political office. That's what I would create.
Interesting. If I agree with that.
Yeah, I actually like this god. This god sounds terrifying. Like I like that.
But the reason, if I likes everything chaotic, why?
He's even trying to tell me. All he said was the ones that negotiations and all that.
Yeah. No, because if I say it's out there, in my head I'm not thinking. Because if I want every god is going to be
no, but think about it. If the god wasn't terrifying, will you worship him? Will you fear him, etc.? It has to be a god. Has to be a god, you know.
There's a point in there. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Anyway, that's all the time we have for this week. Thank you guys for coming on the show. It's been a lovely time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, definitely. We should do this again soon. Maybe talk about maybe when you get created in Jackie and this particular god, or maybe the love interest of Jackie. Then we can talk about another god again.
All right. No worries. Sure, no problem.
Thank you guys. I will talk soon.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.